Um, Hello, everyone. Hello. So let's talk about the testing, mostly UI testing. So let's just mention the two most famous tools we have from the Android, actually, the tools we use mostly nowadays. And I believe some of you might not use it every day on daily basis, like it is used by the test automation engineers in the Appium, maybe like UI Automator or Espresso. But I believe there are still many developers who write UI tests as an end-to-end test on a daily basis. So bear with me for the next couple, 10 or even 30 minutes, and okay, let's go. So we will talk about the espresso mostly because UI Automator is a huge topic, and also we don't usually write UI Automator based test in our Android application mostly, from my experience. But to sum up, the UI Automator is being used by the testers when in test cases when we need to write. The test where uh, we check several applications, how we can share data from the application A to application B, check the intent, how the whole UX and customer journey looks like, and what data is being shared between those two applications, and very high level picture from the top view. This is the UI Automator, and it is popular because it can work with a variety of applications, with variety of the frameworks. Like the most popular framework is Appium, and it can use the UI Automator as the internal layer. But the Espresso is a whole different story because Espresso runs with the application on the main thread, and the source lives with the Android main source code, and Espresso delivers a very handful of functions to work with the views. Just to underline the emphasize the footnote, Espresso is being used for the Android view-based components, not for the compose right now. For the compose, we can use Espresso with the views. So when we use compose plus old Android-based views, in that case, we can use Espresso. Otherwise, compose uses the other testing toolkit, and it has its own rules. And we can talk about a little bit Espresso in later, just for the comparison. But now we'll talk about the Espresso and view-based scenarios. Okay, so major benefits of espresso and why we should take the espresso over some other options. And now in our organization as well, we had our benchmarks and tests over the espresso as native testing framework versus the Appium or any other, because espresso delivers high speed and stability. This is the crucial one, because flaky tests we all hate the flaky test, right? And most importantly, when we want to run them very quickly on the CI server, and the whole CI pipeline fails because one flaky test. So that's why Espresso comes in, and we can just build any custom extension and everything, but still stability is on the bottom part of the Espresso. We have very good support of the overall as a tooling from the Android Studio, and the test recorder is one of the part of this good tooling. I bet you know the test recorder and some of the features from Espresso, but still, those are the features that needs to be highlighted, and Espresso every time shines in that part. And also, it's not a benefit, but the features that Espresso can run on device, on emulator, in parallel, and this is where the scaling comes in. So you can actually scale espresso test, and in scaling I mean the sharding. So you can run, instead of the 100 tests simultaneously on a single device, you can split the shard those tests, like 25 on the device, 25 on the device, and so on. And also we will talk about this a little bit later, but in scaling, I also mean that espresso-based tests can run on the cloud device farms, like the Firebase provides it, the test lab. So your own test can run on whole bunch of different devices on the cloud and still get the report faster and stable. Okay, let's dive in a little bit in the Espresso world. So how Espresso handles very low-level tasks, and why it is very easy for us to use it and also write extensions for it and custom matchers. So custom matchers is like the custom extension for our view matchers, which is one of the core of the Espresso elements, and uh, they're created to, as the name itself suggests, how to match the views, to actually match the views, and we have plenty of functions for them, and then we have some kind of action to do, like click on this view, double, or not double click, but long click on the view to touch it or some to do something, and then at the end of this operation, we need to check the results. So to assert something, that if this worked in the right way or we missed something. So this is pretty much the very basic anatomy of the test, to get something, the object we want to test, to do some kind of an action on it, and then to just assert if this is true or not. So this is a very long sheet of Espresso functions, and this is a very old document, but still it lives on the Android developers website, because Espresso, honestly, Espresso is also quite old framework, and even document says that it's 2015, this document, but still, let's dive in. The Espresso, as I mentioned, we need matcher, view action, and association. Standard syntax look like this, that on view, we need something, some kind of matcher to match the view. Maybe it's via tag, maybe it's via the text written on the button. So we can match it via the ID or any other function, and then we can perform some kind of action like click, long click, and so on, maybe tap, and also to check it if it's displayed, if it's hidden, if most of the contents are displayed, and so on. So those are the major features from Espresso. And on the right hand side, you see that we have almost same anatomy of the method chains, but we have the function on data. So, it is because using Espresso, we can also check the intents. So go back to those slides. On the right hand side, we have the options for the intents. Like if we open activity B from the activity A, we need to check if it has any kind of action. What was the activity result? What is the package? What is the type? What is the class? So we can check what's inside the bundle, what is the component name. So everything can be done with that functions. Okay, and this is a little bit zoomed in part of the Espresso. So on view matchers, you see that we have the properties like visa ID with text, with tag key, the UI properties like if it's displayed, if it's has a focus, it's enabled, and so on, so on. I bet you see. And also on view actions are click, double click, long click, press, and even we can simulate these things, emulate these things, like to press some kind of IME action button on the soft keyboard, to press any key, to press menu key, to close the soft keyboard, and then check the visibility if selected descendants match, if the text is ellipsized, or anything you want. So, and this is not the finite list, so you can add anything you want and extend the functionality. And same goes for the intents as well. So this is a very generic and very basic test how it looks with Espresso. So we still have the classic annotation test, but we write this test not in the test package, but Android test package, because Android test package by default runs on the emulator or phone, so it can't run on JVM. So that's why it's an instrumented test, and we need to put it in the Android test directory. So, and okay, we can just read it those three lines, and what it does. For example, we select something on view with the ID that is some kind of edit text user input. We perform text typing, so we actually type text there, some kind of text we want, and close the keyboard. Hence the part where we can perform several action, and we do the chain of actions here. So type the text, close the keyboard, and then do any other action, and then we can so actually then we perform click on some kind of button, and later we check if the text view, some other text view, matches the text we just typed in. So this scenario is very basic, but still expresses how Espresso test can be written. And also keep in mind that those Espresso tests sometimes are 10 times faster than calling the Appium test and setting up the Appium server. Let's do a little bit demo. I want to show you several examples from the Espresso itself. So let me share the basic sample first, and let's see what we have here. Yep. And this is the example from the official Android testing samples, and you can see different in that repo, different projects actually with a different kind of tests. So this is for Java, this is for Kotlin, and so on. And if you see that here we have activity scenario rule, I want to forget about this right now and focus on the just how test runs, and later we'll discuss about the activity testing rule and also the activity scenario and fragment scenario. So let's run. Oops, I will share the whole screen. Sorry. I just forgot to share here. It runs, of course, it runs very slowly. Gradual build kills me sometimes. So, okay, let's wait. This is, oh, I forgot to show you how, okay, so how the application looks like and what the test is. And I don't want to waste any more time on this basic sample. Okay, we can type here something, maybe test. Hello, Droidcon, change text, and yeah, it changed. And the first very basic test shows us on view. We just, as this slide we're showing, just taking the input and then check if this input is equals the value of the text view. And the another test is that it writes the same text in the input, and then it opens the new activity, and it checks if the value on the text view is equals from the different activity. So let's test this first. So let's run the first test here. So let's run the first test. And when I'm talking about the Android Studio support, I mean the complete support. So you can see the name of the emulator, the duration, and the what was happening on the emulator during that. What's the state of this emulator, and if it fails, we have detailed info. And okay, let's run the second test. Okay, let's test this. Okay. Hello, Droidcon. Open activity and change text. So we have new activity and the text in the text view. So let's run the second test here and to see what's going on. And it should check the Espresso string if it's uh, Espresso, it's on a new activity, and boom, it's ready. Yes, that's a very basic test. And now let's continue and deep dive in a little bit more into the world of the Espresso and how we can utilize the activity scenario and fragment scenarios. Okay, let's talk about the Espresso internals. Okay, how we can handle the asynchronous tasks there. First, okay, the problem with the Espresso now we have that so we now had the demo about the demo on the very pretty basic stuff, and the the scenario was that nothing was there asynchronous. It was everything on the main thread. But what happens when, in a real world example, when you need to log into your account and load the dashboard and something like this? In that case, you need to click on the button, then maybe button gets disabled, or you have some kind of loading screen. You start the network operation on a iOS thread, and then you are waiting for the response to just open the dashboard fragment or activity or something like this to load the dashboard actually. In that case, Espresso tests will fail because of several reasons. In For the Espresso framework, it is crucial to have some conditions met. First is the message queue is empty. Um, I will talk about the message queue a bit later. Second, there are no instances of async tasks currently executing a task. Async tasks is quite an old definition, but still official documentation states that async tasks shouldn't be running there. So I will talk about this a little bit later as well. And all the idling resources, so developer-defined idling resources, should be idle. Okay, start from the beginning. Message queue is empty. What's called the message queue? So from the of my presentation, I stated that Espresso test runs with the application and on the main thread. So it means that any actions you take on Espresso, it's actually going to the application thread. So when you click it, click some button, it's like application put this into the queue. It means the looper, and then it needs to be finished before any other action starts. So in that case, if there's some kind of operation already waiting in the message queue, so it should be finished to start the new action from the Espresso, like this. You just swiped some kind of recycle view or you did some kind of action, and it needs to be the only action on the main thread, and then main thread reacts, and then you can click on the view and it goes to the main thread and then you can chain all the other view assertions, view other clicks and matches and so on. So it's like Espresso should do all the operations sequentially, and the message queue should be always empty to fulfill the Espresso requirements. And second is no async task should be running. So it's a little bit funny in 2021, but still, in terms of async tasks, we can think about any active coroutines, the RxJava streams, anything that can might have some kind of effect or beside the main thread. And if our main thread waits for some kind of operation from another thread, this is a problem for Espresso because Espresso can't handle those and can't detect the changes. For the async tasks, actually, Espresso has built-in support, and it can wait the async task to finish and then continue the operation. But for the coroutines or any other asynchronous work, we need to help Espresso to fulfill the test. That's why it's a problem that we need to write additional code to support Espresso to finish. And there it comes the idling resource, a very evil thing, and I don't recommend using idling resource in the production code because for the idling, so I don't have any examples because I think that you should avoid using idling resource at any cost and use always dependency injection to inject the proper dependencies, maybe some fakes or how we call test doubles to avoid using idling resource. But in and to sum up, idling resource gives you the syntax like this, that in the beginning of your some asynchronous work, you increase the idling resource plus at some point, like if it's default value, if it's null, you increase it to 1. And at the end of the asynchronous work, you decrease it again. And in the test, Espresso can check it and validate when is the idling resource 0. And when it hits the 0, then it can proceed. And otherwise, Espresso waits, and it just waits in the looper. Well, what's happening? And that's a very bad design because now your code is cluttered with so your production code is cluttered by the test supporting code, and it's not correct. And you should avoid it any cost. And use the dependency injection to inject the dispatchers and the swap dispatchers in the test. And for the end-to-end test, just use the real world example. And also the very bad part about the Espresso is that the idling resource is hard coded to use the check to check the view once in every 5 seconds. It means that if the view is if the message queue is not empty and something is blocking to execute Espresso command, it will wait 5 seconds for this idling resource and check it again. And you can't override this value, and this is very expensive operations. That's a problem. So in that matter, there are several custom you can write some kind of custom code, or you can see the GitHub for a very good project like the condition watcher and so on from Asimo Labs, like to synchronize the application behavior with the test threads. And you can check, so you can write the alternative from the idling for the idling resource. And you can check the view in every 100 milliseconds, in every 200 milliseconds, and to check what's happening on the view and so on, and to wait for some condition manually instead of offload this work to the idling resource and wait for 5 seconds. And this will also speed up your tests. So the idling resource, I believe that it's the whole design is flawed, and avoid it to use at any cost. Also, I want to mention the very good Espresso projects like Caspresso that will help you to work with the UI Automator and the Espresso as well, and as lots of very good features. And the Caspresso and Cacao, you can check out those libraries on GitHub as well. and the Espresso is from Kaspersky, so it's a really good library. I want to emphasize these two espresso scenarios, which you just saw in the test or in our demo. The activity scenario and the fragment scenarios, those are very powerful tools in your toolkit. The first one is the activity scenario where you can isolate the activity itself and test the behavior of the activity and to test the some kind of features of the activity itself. You can create some kind of states where the activity is resumed. It's in create state and test very specific functionality of this activity. And of course, we have the fragment scenario, and on the alternative side, that you can test the graphical and non-graphic interface, so non-graphic fragments, and it also supports fragment factory, and it gives us the ability also to immediately start the fragment in in a state that we want, and to switch from one state to another state as we want, so as we wish. And the documentation is really good, and also the support from the community as well is quite good. So here I have I want to just share this screen of the Android Studio right now to here. This is the fragment scenario. There we see that we just launched the fragment here, and we test that the syntax is so simple that you will love it. So on fragment, so this function means that this fragment is ready, and the scenario is ready, and we do all the operations inside this, and we can ask that something in the fragment is if the dialog is showing, the actual dialog fragment is showing, and so on. And then we can help the Espresso syntax to check if the specific view is in the root, if it exists, to check what's the text inside, and so on. But let's just boot up this project and check this. And same applies to the activity scenarios as well. So here we have yeah, and hence these two functions, like in container and the launch fragment. So those okay, something happened. I don't like it. Okay, why? Okay, the course of the live demo. So sorry for that. Tried just to run. Okay, but I believe tests also will fail. Nope, tests are running. It's weird. Okay, just keep it. Yep. Yep. So those are very, very powerful tools in our toolkit. You can find me on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and you can DM me, and I can help you with the examples. And if you have any kind of question, I'm open for it. Sorry for the demo. A little bit about the scaling and the options we have. The very two popular scaling topic is as I mentioned, Firebase Test Lab, and of course there are other vendors on AWS and Azure and so on, but yeah, the most popular one is the Firebase Test Lab, and you can just submit your UI tests there, and you will get the reports very quickly. and also the test charting. But the test charting is such a complicated topic that I'm not the expert either, but I found very good resources on them, and yeah, you can try it. And but to consider about the test charting is that you can use the headless emulator, the emulator without the UI interface for the instrumental test. So it will speed up some of the tests. And the common challenges we face for the test, and even UI automata can't fix this all for us. It's the navigation part, the very tricky navigation for the application for some part of the applications, and the deep links are the problem. And deep links can be covered by the UI estimator, but still it's a little bit tricky to test, and sometimes they may um, let's say act differently on different devices, and also it can work differently with the Chinese phones, and by default the analytics and the backups are out of scope to test, because you can test analytics unless you just go to your ADB shell and test if the analytics are really logging, because if you use Firebase or Google Analytics, still it has some kind of delay. And the backups, so you can't cover testing backups anywhere. It's somehow out of scope of the UI testing, but still, it's a part of the end-to-end testing. You need to check how the backups are working, and mostly it can be automated and manually testing manually, because and also in terms of the Android 12 restrictions, test backups are very tricky thing to test it. Those are, I will share slides as well, of course. Those are the resources I have, the Espresso docs, sharding. The Flank is a very good resource, actual library, the tool for the sharding, and the condition watcher I mentioned. I forgot to put there the Espresso part, but you can check it on the GitHub as well. So I think that's it from my side. Thank you for me, and now I'm waiting for the questions.